Good morning, good morning, good morning. So, hello. Today I'm just getting ready to go to my office to do some work. But I need to kind of get on with making these videos because I kind of made some and then stopped making them quite some time ago, and then decided to just randomly start releasing the videos without actually making enough for it to for me to like have a nice stockpile. So yeah, I need to get on with making some more. So I'm on this whole healthy eating regime, which kind of starts every Monday. Usually gets to Tuesday, Wednesday, fall off the wagon, and by the weekend I'm on full-blown pizza, chips, and drinking lots of beer and wine. But to be honest, me and Lizzie are both sick of that kind of routine that we've got ourselves into. So we're really making a concerted effort with our shakes and our fruit. And I've got these little pea snacks, which are really interesting and very tasty. Okay, so in the last video, I talked about kind of different cameras that you might consider using. And for most people, like a phone is going to be the best option for most things that you're going to want to do. Now, there is a lot more to it than that. I don't want to oversimplify it. But what I now want to go into today is the things that are the most important or the basics of taking still images or moving images, film and photography. What are the basic things that you might want to consider, or you do want to consider, that are going to improve, you know, your images and the way that they look, the finished product looks. This is by no means like a deep look into those things. This is not kind of advanced stuff, and I'm not really going to be showing you anything because I'm going to do that in a video down the line. But today I just wanted to basically discuss the things that you might want to consider and how you might want to be aware of them, and how having an awareness of them will improve your film, your photography and your video capture. And basically this is the basics that you need to understand before you start thinking about getting a good camera, because if you know these things, then your images will look better no matter what camera you use. Okay, so the production on these videos is going to be kind of all over the place to start with. I'm hoping that in the future I'll spend a lot more time and effort on the production. Being a video producer, people might kind of be expecting some really high quality shit. So I need to kind of work on that. But to start with, I'm just making sure that I kind of have time to put stuff out, and putting stuff out quickly means kind of doing it quickly, not going overboard with the production. Okay, so there's a slight kind of extra bit of wind that I wasn't expecting. I haven't got like a little muff on my microphone, so sorry if there's a little bit of wind noise. Now, I'm not going to go into masses of detail about how to take really great images, because this is really kind of like starting off beginner stuff. Okay, so I'm not going into loads of detail. I'm just going to go through these pretty quickly. So the number one thing you really need to be considering when you're taking a photograph or you are doing a video clip, and I'm not talking about putting a series of video clips together and editing something. I'm just talking about like you're capturing an image, so whether it's a moving one or a still one, is what is the subject? What is the subject? So the thing is, I think people sometimes they take photographs of stuff or they capture video clips, and it's just because they want to capture the moment that they're experiencing, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And to be honest, I would say that most of the stuff that I kind of did for the majority of my life, and you know, still now, if I'm somewhere with my kids or I'm experiencing something, I'm still like you. I'll get my phone out or whatever, and I'll want to capture the concert that I'm seeing, or you know, the kids running around, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. okay? But if you want to take it to the next level, you really need to have a think about what it is you are trying to capture. So let's say you're taking a photograph and, you know, there are lots of things in this scene because you're doing it quite wide. You know, let's say you're using your phone and it's got a wide lens, and there are lots of things going on in front of your camera. Person is the subject. If it's an object, like a car or something like that, then that's the subject. And that is the most important thing in the frame, in the picture. It might sound a little bit obvious, but I think that it's the thing that people don't necessarily concentrate on when they get the phone out or they get a camera out and they're going to take a photo. They don't necessarily think, I need to make this thing stand out, okay? And all the other things that we're now going to talk about is how you're going to make that thing stand out. Okay, so the next thing we need to talk about is lighting. Lighting is pretty much the most important thing after whatever your subject is in photography. Okay, so photography, cinematography, you know, same thing. Lighting is really, really important because effectively what you are doing, what photography is capturing light. Okay, so it's capturing how bright something is, how dark something is. It's capturing light and how the light bounces off those subjects. We used to record it on film. Now we're recording it on a digital image sensor, but the principles, whether you're working with film or working with digital, is exactly the same. You're recording light. So how the light is bouncing off objects and things like that is going to affect how that image looks. Lighting is a huge topic, and it's probably one of the hardest things to kind of become a master of. And when people talk about becoming like masters of photography, what's considered to be a master of photography is someone that understands light. It's not just light, there are lots of other things, but understands light, and the next thing that I'm going to talk about, composition, understands those two things, to the highest level. And lighting is really going to change how any image looks, whether it's a moving or a still image. So because it's such a big topic, lighting, I'm not going to kind of be able to go into every single thing that you need to consider in relation to lighting. And I am going to make videos in the future where we talk a little bit more in detail about how to use the light that's available or that you can add into a scene to make a better photograph or a better video. But just like now, if we just talk about, there are different types of light, okay? So the main sort of way we talk about light when we're talking about photo and video is we're talking about hard light and soft light. So hard light would be something that is like really, really bright and intense, and it's shining directly on a subject. So like the sun beaming down or a light hitting the subject. Okay, so that's kind of a hard light. And then we talk about soft light, which is usually it's being diffused. That's what the terminology is. So we're diffusing light, we're making it a softer light, we're passing the light through something. Okay, so like it could be here today, there is lots of clouds. So this is quite a soft light that's lighting me today, because there isn't a sun beaming down on me. The sun is hidden by the clouds, and the light is passing through the clouds, and the clouds are acting as a diffuser. If we were in a studio space and I was firing a flash at me to take a photograph, rather than the flash light coming and bouncing straight on me, it might be passing through a what they call a softbox or some sort of light modifier, one of them umbrella type things, that sort of thing. And what that's going to do is it's just going to make the light look less intense, and it's going to spread it out. Okay, and that's really important when you're dealing with lighting subjects. The other thing to discuss is the direction of light, because where the light is coming from and how much of it there is going to determine what your photograph or your video looks like, what the subject looks like in that image. So if the light is coming all around the subject, then it's going to be lighting them evenly, and it's going to be producing less shadows, less contrast, and that's going to produce a different looking image. If the light is directional, so it's coming, say, from this angle, and it's lighting this side of me more than this side, then that's going to produce a completely different look. And it's these sorts of lighting techniques and these sorts of lighting considerations that are going to, add towards whether your image looks interesting or not, and it's going to help you to produce things that we're going to talk about later, like for instance depth in your images. Okay, so that's not like covering everything to do with lighting. Like I say, it's a huge topic, but you know what the type of light is and the direction that it's coming from, those things are kind of like the basics. The next thing we're going to talk about is composition. Okay, so composition is basically what your image looks like. Where are things in that frame? Okay, so when we talk frame, we're talking about the image, that is the frame. And again, composition is such a huge topic, and there are so many different things that you can kind of discuss within composition. But basically, if you think about your composition more than just pulling out your camera, taking a photo of what's in front of you, if you actually think about where you place your subject within the frame, okay, and how you place other objects or other people within that frame, it's amazing how much it will affect what the final image looks like, whether that's a still or a moving one. Let me give you a quick example. So right now I'm stood at this side of the image. So rather than being in the middle, most people I think would put yourselves in the middle. They will put the subject in the middle of the frame, and there is nothing wrong with that. If you are trying to do something specific, putting someone or something in the middle isn't a wrong thing to do. Now here's like a thing for you. Putting something in the middle and creating some kind of symmetry, that makes sense. Putting something in the middle just for the sake of putting it in the middle, it doesn't really look as good as if you balance it out by putting them to one side of the frame. So if I go to this side, that probably looks a little bit better, and the reason it looks a little bit better is also because this tree that's in the background is on the other side. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I can't see what I'm actually filming right now. I am properly guessing here, so this might not look right. What I'm trying to do is have me at this side and the tree over there at that side, and balance it out so that we're almost kind of on opposite sides of the frame. The tree is a lot further back. So what I'm now doing is I'm creating depth in this image. You're focusing on me, or hopefully the camera's focusing on me because it's in autofocus. So hopefully it's focusing on me, and then this is in the background and it's creating this depth in the image, and it should look a lot more pleasing to the eye. This is the same whether we're talking about moving or still images, but there are obviously some other principles because there are other things that come into it like movement, okay, but we won't go into that right now. That's not talking about the whole of composition. Composition is a very, very, very detailed and technical subject. There are lots of different methods of composing a good photo or video. It's a huge topic. So what I just showed you was basically something called the rule of thirds, and the rule of thirds is probably the most simplistic and most used composition technique. There are lots of others, and I will maybe go into them in more detail in a different video. One of the other things you need to consider when you're talking about composition is you want to be talking about like focus, what you're focusing on, your depth of field, so how much of the image is in focus, and framing. So basically we're using the frame that we've got to frame the subject, but we can use frames within frames, and that will draw more attention to particular parts of the image. Okay, so there you have the very basics of kind of getting a better image, and like the next thing is really taking your image to the next level by introducing storytelling, and storytelling can be increased and enhanced by adding into that those images things like movement into the shot, considering shot type, and audio for video capture, for moving picture capture, because these things help to tell the story of what you're showing in the image. So an example of that would be, you know, this is quite a close-up shot, this is a much more close shot, and this is going to feel a bit claustrophobic to someone watching. You know, if I swizzle it round and show you what I'm walking at, and I'll just change the exposure a little bit, but you know, that wide shot there, because this is a really wide lens, that's telling a completely different story, because it's creating like this open space and you can see so much more of what's going on. Obviously there's not a lot going on here because we're just in some fields, but effectively, you know, the shot type, so whether it's a close-up, a mid-shot, a long shot, lots of other technical terms for different types of shots, especially in filmmaking, but I'll go into that in a different video. But basically, how the shot is composed, how much of the scene you're showing is going to help with storytelling. Having movement in the camera, so right now I'm walking, so it's like, you know, it's creating a completely different feel to if I was just stood still. And you know, moving the camera, this doesn't just apply to video, but it applies to photography as well, because if you can use techniques to create movement within shots, that is going to, or if the subject's moving, so like a car or a motorbike or something moving fast, you know, freezing the motorbike or car and having parts of the scene blurred, it's going to create a particular look and particular feel to that photo. It's going to help with telling the story of what you're trying to show. And then audio, you know, a lot of what we think our brains process isn't just what we see, but it's what we hear and smell and all that sort of thing. So if you have sounds in there as well, that's going to really enhance what the video is going to look like. That's not so much for photography though. Okay, so I'm not going to lie, a bit of a nightmare. I've just realised that the microphone that I'm using, you have to turn down the kind of internal amplifier in the camera, and for some reason it had reset itself. I think when I changed the battery and I didn't realise. So this might be at a completely unhearable level, like too loud, all the stuff I've just been saying, and if it is, I'll be really pissed off because it's just taken me ages to do that. So I'm really sorry. I might just put it out anyway, and I apologise for the audio quality. If you are like a little bit more experienced with your photography and your filmmaking, I'm sorry if like this has been kind of teaching you to suck eggs a little bit, but the idea was it's just to go through like the basics. And I know I haven't really touched the surface with a lot of those topics, but yeah, it was just supposed to be a brief overview. Probably not so brief, probably about 15 minutes worth there, but anyway. So if this has been helpful in any way, or you've been entertained by my really loud voice in the unbalanced microphone, because I can't monitor what I'm recording, then yeah, please give us a like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff, because I really kind of want to try and make these, even though I'm really busy, I want to try and make as often as possible and put them out, just because it's fun.